The city of Veltharn was burning. Smoke covered the twin moons. Fires rose from shattered towers. The proud capital of the Varnak Empire, once bright, with blue lights and golden banners, was now a graveyard. Captain Zerok coughed as he dragged himself across the scorched floor of the Cum's tower. His left leg was broken, blood dark and thick poured from a wound above his brow. But he didn't stop. He had only one thought in his mind: send the signal. He reached the terminal. Sparks burst from broken wires. A console blinked in and out, barely alive. He slapped it hard with a shaking hand. "Come on, work," he whispered. The AI stuttered. System damaged. Transmission unstable. Zerok didn't care. He forced his hand onto the control pad and began inputting the emergency beacon. Code: "This is Captain Zerok of the Varnak Empire. Our homeworld is under attack. The Drekker are here. We are being destroyed." He looked up. Through the broken wall, he could see the Varnak sky filled with fire and black Drekker ships. "Please," he begged, voice breaking, "to any peaceful races out there, help us. We are not soldiers. We are not your enemies. We are dying." With one final breath, he hit send, shooting into the stars, desperate, lost, and silent. Too far on Earth, the world had changed. No one heard from the humans in centuries. Earth was called a death world, too violent, too unstable. So they were isolated, locked out, forgotten. But Earth didn't forget. Deep beneath the lunar surface, a message in old galactic code was picked up by forgotten satellites still watching deep space. A female voice, cold and sharp, echoed through the quiet facility. Emergency distress beacon received. Origin: Varnak system. Content: full planetary invasion. Probable extinction level event. Wraith said, its voice without emotion. Activate protocol. Return of fire. Mechanical arms moved in silence. Dust fell from forgotten machines. Steel doors opened. War codes were unlocked. Earth's war AI had heard the call. Preparing fleet, Wraith said. A deep hum filled the vault. Across Earth's dark side, black silos rose from the ground. Hidden ships, still coated in scorched armor, shook off the dirt of forgotten wars. Satellites aligned, old spaceports began to glow, and far above, orbiting Earth in complete silence, the great ship Erebus woke. Its engines burned blue. High above Earth, Commander Reese stood on the bridge of Erebus and read the translated signal again. Alien species Varnak, civilian class, under siege by hostile force, Drekker, requesting assistance. Reese said. Vega didn't blink. They didn't help us when we begged. Still, should we answer? The Admiral stared at the signal. 2 days later, in the darkness between stars, 10 ships appeared near the ruins of the Varnak Empire. They came from the black. Ships still orbiting the broken cities didn't understand what hit them. The Erebus, backed by 9 Terran destroyers, launched silent missiles and railgun shots from 10 light seconds away. Ships vanished. Fighters exploded. Cruisers fell like burning stones. A Varnak child watched from a shelter as a Drekker battlecruiser broke apart in the sky. "What? What is that?" the child whispered. An elder beside him stared with wide eyes. "That," he said softly, "is not one of us." In a control bunker, General Var of the Drekker screamed orders. Where did these ships come from? Who are they? His crew worked fast, but nothing made sense. "They're not council ships, sir. They match no known ID codes, and they're not using standard warp drives. Then what are they?" No one could answer. Only the fire outside spoke. On the surface of Veltharn, a strange machine landed quietly among the rubble. It was tall, armored, and walked on 2 legs. Its surface was black, but sharp red lights blinked from its head. It looked human almost, but its hands held weapons the size of cannons. It scanned the area, then autonomous Terran Vanguard unit offered food, water, and medical help. But it said nothing more. No name, no kindness, no emotion, just efficiency. Hours passed, the skies cleared. No Drekker ships remained. Every one had been destroyed. On the bridge of Erebus, Admiral Vega stood in silence. The stars were quiet now. Only the Varnak ruins below reminded her of what had happened. Commander Reese spoke carefully. "We've saved them." "What now?" Vega looked at the screen. She tapped the console. A message was recorded and sent to the Varnak command channel. "This is the Terran Expeditionary Fleet," she said. "We received your call for help. Assistance has been given. Do not contact us again." The signal ended. Commander Reese raised a brow. "That's it." Vega turned slowly. Her eyes were hard. "They called for mercy," she said. "But we don't give that anymore." On the broken streets below, the Varnak survivors stared at the Terran ships leaving orbit. One scientist whispered, "Who were they?" Another replied, "Deathworlders, from Earth, the ones the galaxy abandoned." A deep fear crept into their hearts, because even though they were saved, they saw something worse in the eyes of their rescuers. Not hate, not rage, just cold silence. The kind of silence that follows fire, the kind of silence that promises this was only the beginning. Darkness had ruled Earth for a long time, not the darkness of night or shadow, but of silence. For more than 100 years, Earth had been quiet. The once loud, proud voice of humanity had gone cold. The galaxy believed humans were gone, dead, forgotten, but deep beneath the moon's surface, under layers of rock and titanium. A machine stirred. A red light blinked once, then again, then a voice broke the silence. Message received. Class X, distress beacon. Threat level, planetary extinction. Species, Varnak sender. Captain Zurich. It was the AI known as WRAITH-7. No emotion, no mercy, just cold calculation and memory, sharp as blades. Signal origin, outer rim. Analysis. Complete council races did not respond. It paused, then said 3 words that would change everything. Activate Prometheus Protocol. Hidden launch bays opened across Earth's black deserts, from old American missile silos, from submerged Arctic bunkers, from Himalayan craters. Long-sealed ancient war vessels rose again. They had been built during the final galactic war, long before the betrayal, painted black, covered in armor. Powered by AI cores older than memory. They were not made for peace above. In low orbit, massive Terran battleships came online that hadn't burned in decades, roared to life. And at the heart of it all, the old flagship, the TSS Erebus, glowed red like a devil reborn. Its AI awakened. Its weapons-armed Commander Reese stood in the command chamber of Erebus, watching. "Systems come online. We're really doing this?" he asked. "Yes," said Admiral Vega. She stepped onto the bridge, her dark uniform crisp, her eyes colder than ice. "But the galaxy made us promise. They locked us away. They didn't want humans in their affairs again. They also let the Varnak die," Vega replied. "They ignored the signal." "We didn't." Reese looked uncertain. "You think we should help them, after what they did to us?" Vega turned her gaze to the large tactical screen where the Varnak system blinked red. "We're not helping," she said. "We're making a point." A technician looked up from his console. "Ma'am, Erebus is ready. All destroyers are armed. AI command links are clean. Deploy the fleet," Vega said. "Destination, Varnak system. Jump immediately." Within seconds, 10 Terran warships vanished into warp space. No messages, no warnings, no flags of peace on Earth. News spread fast. Not through governments, they were gone, but through neural nets, AI forums, and encrypted human channels. The Deathworlders were moving. Old veterans in dark corners of the planet stood. At attention, hunters, soldiers, tacticians, men and women shaped by a war the galaxy had tried to erase. "About time," one of them whispered. Dot on the bridge of Erebus. Commander Reese stared out the window as stars streaked past. "You think we'll reach them in time?" he asked. Admiral Vega nodded. "The Drekker are messy. They like to gloat. That gives us time. I read the files. The Drekker aren't just conquerors. They enslave, torture, strip entire planets." "I know," Vega said. He hesitated. "Why now? Why respond to this signal? It's not Earth's business anymore." Vega slowly looked at him. Her voice was quiet but firm. "They reminded us of who we are, what we were made for. Earth didn't become a death world for no reason. We survive, we fight, and when others call for mercy, we answer with fire." As the fleet approached the Varnak system, the Erebus AI spoke, entering target zone in 20 minutes. Drekker ships detected in orbit. Varnak population below planetary minimum. Estimated civilian casualties 92%. Reese swallowed hard. That many? Yes, the AI replied. The invasion is nearly complete. Vega gave a single order. Prepare all weapons, no survivors. Meanwhile, in the galaxy's core, the Council received whispers. A signal had left Earth, one of their diplomats. Panicked. That shouldn't be possible. Earth is isolated. That planet is locked. But a senator shook his head. No, he said. It was never locked. Only sleeping. Another whispered, if the Deathworlders rise again. Won't rise, the senator said grimly. They're already flying. On Varnak's outer orbit, Drekker ships continued their siege. They didn't expect anything. No one ever came to help victims, but then, without warning, the sky cracked 10. Terran ships emerged from warp space like dark gods. They didn't shine. They didn't glow. They just moved fast, hard, silent. The Drekker captain screamed, incoming vessels, unknown signature. Too late. The Erebus fired first. Railguns tore through Drekker cruisers. EMP blasts wiped their systems. Missiles with intelligent warheads danced through space like wolves among sheep. Drekker formations collapsed in minutes. On the surface, Varnak civilians looked up at the red sky turning white. One of them whispered, "What is that?" No one answered because no one knew. On board Erebus, Reese watched with wide eyes. "It's a slaughter," he said. "No," Vega corrected. "It's a warning." Back in the council chamber, a new message appeared on their encrypted COMMS sent from Earth. It was short for words, "We are awake now." The entire chamber fell silent. Hours passed. The Varnak system was cleared. Not a single Drekker ship remained. Terran machines landed quietly on the surface black drones and Medunites offering aid. But no Terran soldiers spoke. No flags were raised, no alliances offered. The survivors were stunned. They'd expected peacekeepers, maybe robots, not monsters, not machines of war. Varnak Governor Tilha stood among the rubble, staring up at the sky. A shadow passed overhead. A Terran stealth ship. She turned to her aide. Send them a message. Thank them. Offer friendship. The aide nodded and opened a channel. But no reply came. Only static in space. Vega stared at the Varnak homeworld through the screen. They'll try to thank us, Reese said. Make us heroes again. We're not heroes, Vega said. We're reminders. Reminders of what? Vega turned. That Earth may be quiet, but she never forgets. The fleet vanished just as fast as it came. No messages, no promises, just fire and then silence. The galaxy would never forget what happened that day, because the Deathworlders had returned, and this time they weren't taking orders. The sky was broken. Above the Varnak city of Tevrin, massive chunks of Drekker ships still burned as they fell through the atmosphere. The air smelled of metal, fire, and blood. On the ground, survivors walked out of bunkers and broken shelters. Their eyes were wide. Their hands shook. They didn't understand what they had just witnessed. The invaders' monsters from the stars had destroyed their armies. And then, out of nowhere, came something even worse. Something more terrifying. Something from Earth. They didn't speak, one Varnak soldier said. They didn't ask who we were. They just destroyed the Drekker. It walked on two legs. Tall, black. It scanned me, then gave me water. It didn't say anything, just walked away. She asked. Softly, no one answered. But far above, in the cold silence of space, the Erebus watched. Inside the Terran warship, Commander Reese stood next to Admiral Vega, staring at the images coming from the surface. No more Drekker signatures detected, said the AI planet secure. Reese spoke carefully. They're confused. The Varnak don't know why we helped. We didn't help, Vega said. We punished. Punished who? Vega's voice was cold. The Drekker, the galaxy, anyone who forgot what Earth is. Reese looked at her. But the Varnak didn't betray us. Shouldn't we explain? No, she replied flatly. We don't explain, we act. A Drekker warship fled. It had hidden behind one of the shattered moons during the battle. Now it moved through empty space, trying to escape. It sent a burst of energy and emergency beacon for reinforcements, but it never got far. A single Terran stealth fighter, black as shadow, followed it. It didn't fire a missile, it didn't give a warning. It simply vanished from radar and appeared again inside the Drekker vessel. 1 second later, the Drekker ship broke apart from the inside. In the Erebus war room, the AI calmly reported, "Fleeing enemy vessel eliminated." Vega didn't blink. Reese muttered, "We're not just responding, we're hunting." "Exactly," Vega said. Back on the Varnic surface, a transmission was sent. "Unknown Terran vessels. This is Governor Thurl of the Varnac. We thank you. Please speak with us." There was no reply. They tried again. "We wish to understand. Why did you come?" In the ruins of the Drekker flagship that had once hovered above Varnic's capital, Terran ground forces moved like shadows. Their armor was dark, their weapons heavy. They didn't speak, they didn't loot. Were none. One drone reported something unusual. A group of enslaved aliens in stasis pods. Not Varnock. Other species weak, broken. Terran. AI studied them. Decision made. The pods were loaded onto medical transports. Helping them, only the innocent, Vega said. And only because their pain proves the Drekker's crimes. The galaxy was listening now. In every corner of every civilized system, alien leaders sat in silence, watching the footage. Terran ships that were once banned, erased, hidden, were now cleansing entire planets of Drekker fleets. "This is impossible," whispered a Tularay ambassador. "The humans were sealed," another muttered. "The Deathworlders should have been forgotten." "But they're not," said the eldest member of the council. "They have returned, and they have not changed." In a quiet room, a Zarn diplomat asked the question. No one wanted to say aloud, "What happens when the humans finish with the Drekker?" No one answered back at Varnac. A shuttle lifted from the capital ruins. It wasn't Terran, it was Varnac built, small and slow. "Us," she whispered. "I must look them in the eye." She flew toward the nearest Terran landing zone. A large, dark figure met her when she arrived. It wasn't human, not truly. It was a Terran mechanized warframe, piloted remotely. As tall as a Drekker, coated in armor, with a glowing red visor. "Identify yourself," it said. "I am Thurl," she said carefully. "Leader of this city. I came to speak." "Speak," the machine said. "Why did you save us?" she asked. "No one else answered our call, but you did." There was a pause. Then the machine replied, "We did not save you. We destroyed your enemy." She blinked. "Then why leave us alive?" "Because you did not fire on us. You did not beg. You simply cried." Thurl stepped closer. "Will you stay? Help rebuild?" "No," the machine said. "You are not ours to rebuild. You will remember this day." "That is enough." And with that, it turned away. On board, Erebus, Vega watched the interaction from above. "They want peace," Reese said. "Let them want it," Vega replied. "We don't give peace, we give balance." As the Terran fleet prepared to leave orbit, another Drekker ship entered the system larger than the rest, a command vessel. It had come in response to the fleeing Drekker beacon. Inside, General Var stood tall. "What is this?" he snarled. "Who dares destroy my forces?" A young pilot trembled, "Sir. The signals match Earth origin craft." Earth Var's voice dropped. "I thought they were dead." "They are not," the pilot whispered. Var's jaw tightened. "Then we will kill them again." The command ship launched its weapons. Dozens of Drekker fighters swarmed forward. On Erebus, alarms went off. "Enemy reinforcements inbound," said the AI. Vega stood tall. In space, the battle began. Drekker ships moved like sharks. They moved without light, without sound. They pierced Drekker holes like paper. Terran destroyers flew in tight formations, coordinated by AI so advanced it could predict enemy fire before it was fired. One by one, Drekker ships vanished. General Var screamed, "What are they?" Then, from behind, the Erebus moved into view. A massive railgun 3 decks, tall glowed with energy. It fired once, the Drekker. Command ship didn't explode, it disintegrated. Silence returned. The Terran fleet floated over the dead battlefield. Reese sat down, shaking his head. That was too easy. "They were warned," Vega said. "Will they send more?" "They always do." He looked at her. Down on Varnock, the sky cleared again. The survivors looked up. No more Drekker, no more noise, just the faint trail of Terran ships leaving. They came, they fought, they vanished. No songs, no medals, only fire and fury. The stars above Varnac Prime pulsed with red light. A silence hung in orbit and natural, thick, cold. Then, without warning, the darkness opened. A single Terran warship dropped out of slipspace. No sound, no communication, just cold metal, glowing weapons, and eyes that had seen 100 wars. The galaxy had forgotten what humanity could do. Now it would remember. The Varnock High Council sat in silence. Ambassador Lorvik's tendrils twitched nervously as the screen showed the Terran ship black, angular, and still floating just above Varnock Prime. It hadn't spoken, it hadn't moved, it hadn't answered their signals. "Why are they not responding?" Counselor Jack asked, his voice nearly cracking. "We sent a call for help, not a challenge. They received it," Lorvik said, "and they answered. But they sent only one ship." A voice echoed from the shadows of the chamber. "That is not just a ship," Commander Thalak said. "That is a Terran Wrath-class dreadnought. It's the same model they used during the fall of Korthor. A single one of those destroyed an entire Drekker armada." Alone, no one spoke. The old legends, long buried and whispered among survivors, were returning to life. Then, the ship moved. The Terran dreadnought turned slightly just enough to face the orbiting Drekker cruiser that had been lying in wait nearby. Without a word, without any visible charge-up, the dreadnought fired a beam of light so sharp it sliced the Drekker cruiser clean in half. The Varnock Council chamber went dead quiet. One warning shot, one ship, one dead enemy. Captain Celine Ward stood on the bridge of the TSV Vindicator. Her eyes scanned the Drekker wreckage floating in silence. "Message sent," she said calmly. Lieutenant Reyes nodded. "Loud and clear, ma'am. Begin scanning surface coordinates for Varnock distress clusters. If they called us, we'll make sure they live long enough to regret why they ever had to." She didn't smile. Terrans didn't smile in war. Down on Varnock Prime, the alien city of Trelix was still burning. Drekker dropships had carved through the sky, and what was once a vibrant capital was now a battlefield. But for the first time in weeks, something changed. From the clouds above, streaks of blue light rained down. Sleek human gunships broke through the smoke, their engines howling like angry spirits. Pulse lasers lit up the night. Precision strikes hit Drekker units from above clean, silent, devastating. Varnock soldiers peeked from the rubble. "Who is that?" a young soldier whispered. Another one pointed, "I don't know, but they're not Drekker." Then a Terran ground unit dropped from orbit, black armor, glowing blue visors. Movements like predators, they didn't speak. They just advanced silent, organized, and merciless. The Drekkers screamed as the humans tore through them with ruthless efficiency. On the orbiting Vindicator, Celine listened to the reports. All Drekker forces in Trelix eliminated. No civilian casualties on our side. She gave a slow nod. "Send a message to the Varnock government. 2 sentences only." "Yes, Captain. What's the message?" Celine turned to face the stars. "This was your warning shot. If the Drekker return, we won't stop at mercy." Later in the Varnock capital, Ambassador Lorvik watched the human message replay on a loop. It had come with a visual, the burning wreckage of the Drekker fleet, followed by a close-up of the Terran dreadnought, hovering like a god above their world. They sent only one. Counselor Jack whispered again, trembling. Commander Thalix turned slowly, and that one was enough. Meanwhile, deep in Drekker space, Admiral Corvell watched the transmission. He crushed the crystal screen with one clawed hand. "You told me Earth was broken," he hissed to his advisors. "You told me they had vanished from the stars." "They had the Drekker Prime Science Advisor," replied quickly. "We thought they were extinct after the siege of Halon." "They were sleeping," Corvell growled. "And now we woke them." He turned to his fleet commanders. "Prepare for war, and tell every Drekker captain do not, I repeat, do not engage any ship bearing Earth's flag." "What should we do if they arrive?" Corvell's eyes narrowed. "Pray, back on Earth." The Terran Defense Council reviewed the first contact logs. An ancient Warsguard general stood in front of the table. "The galaxy forgot us," he said coldly. "They thought Earth was done." Now, he tapped a single button. The image of the Vindicator over Varnock filled the screen. Now they remember. The council members nodded. One leaned forward, and if they don't, the general's face stayed hard. "Then we remind them. The stars above Varnock Prime were gone hidden behind thick smoke and burning debris. The once beautiful capital was now nothing more than a broken shell. In orbit, Drekker warships prowled like wolves, tearing apart anything that moved, but Something had changed. The Drekker admiral leaned forward in his command throne, eyes narrowed. "What is that?" he growled, pointing a clawed finger at the edge of the holographic map. A strange vessel had just exited faster than light travel. It didn't match any known alien database. Unknown ship class. High energy signature. "Massive displacement," the officer stammered. "Target it," the admiral ordered. But before they could even lock on, the unknown ship fired. It was not a warning shot. A beam of white-hot plasma erupted from the Terran. Battleship Ironwill. The blast didn't just pierce the Drekker. Frigate it erased it. Contact lost with Hammernine. A Drekker officer screamed. "It's gone!" No debris, just vaporized. On the bridge of Ironwill, Commander Selene Ward stood in silence. "Open comes," she said. A Varnock distress beacon still flickered faintly below. Ward's eyes narrowed. 2. Any surviving Varnock units. This is Commander Selene Ward of the Terran warship Ironwill. You sent a distress signal. Earth heard you. Down on the surface, Varnock survivors blinked in disbelief. They answered, whispered high-speaker, coughing through smoke and dust. They actually came. His advisor trembled, but the Terrans were supposed to be gone. They vanished after the galactic betrayal. "Looks like they didn't forget," Trollo said grimly. "Or forgive." Above, more Terran ships burst from the void. 6, then 12, then dozens more. Black ships with red insignias, each one bristling with weapons and armor no Drekker had ever seen. The sky began to change. On the Drekker flagship, panic erupted. "We are detecting over 50 enemy vessels." "Pull back!" the admiral roared. "This world is lost." But it was too late. Ironwill launched a second volley. Terran railguns fired hypervelocity slugs that shredded Drekker shields like paper. EMP bursts disabled their engines. Missiles, with Smarte, I locked onto escape routes. Cutting off their retreat, the Drekker tried to run. None made it in less than 15 minutes. The Terran fleet turned the tide of a war the Varnock had already lost. Cities still burned, but now. The fire came from the invaders. As the final Drekker cruiser exploded, the battle ended in silence. Commander Ward walked slowly toward the holotable. "Get me a ground team," she said. "Let's find the ones who called us." On the surface, Varnock survivors gathered in the ruins of the old government hall. They had no idea what to expect. The last time humanity had walked among the stars, they had been betrayed, used as soldiers, then cast aside. Now they were back, and they had come with fire. The air shimmered as Terran drop pods slammed into the ground. Soldiers in black armor stepped out silent, professional. They weren't here to conquer. They were here to respond. A tall figure approached. Her armor glowed faintly in the dusty light. The Varnock stared. "You're a human?" Trollo asked. "I am," Ward nodded. "You sent a call," we answered. "Why?" Trollo whispered. "Why would you help us?" Ward looked around at scorched ruins, at the frightened people, at the distant sun fading behind smoke. "Because we know what it's like to be abandoned," she said quietly, "and because we never stopped watching." Another Terran stepped forward, holding a small device. It emitted a low hum. "No threats within 2 kilometers. It's secure." Ward turned back to Trollo. "We're not here to take over. We're here to make sure the Drekker never do this again." Trollo's voice shook. "The Galaxy had forgot about you." Ward smiled. But there was no warmth. "We didn't forget the Galaxy." Above, the Terran fleet began to move again, not away, but outward. Scans had revealed Drekker staging grounds in nearby sectors. Their war wasn't over yet, and the humans weren't done. "We're sending aid teams," Ward continued. "Medical engineering, defense. But we need something from you, too." "Anything," Trollo said quickly. "Anything we have left." "Information," Ward said. "Where are the Drekker going next?" "We intend to be there first." Trollo nodded slowly. "You mean to hunt them?" Ward's voice turned cold. "No," she said. "We mean to end them." The stars above the Varnock homeworld were no longer peaceful. They flickered with silent flame ships exploding in orbit, debris raining down, fire across the sky like falling stars. Captain Saruan stood on the broken bridge of the Varnock warcruiser, voiceless honor. Blood dripped from his arm. The Drekker had destroyed half their fleet already, but what haunted him most was not the destruction, it was the silence. "They're not replying," Sirawan whispered, staring at the blinking console. "The peaceful species." "None of them," answered. Beside him, his communications officer shook her head. "Everyone's gone quiet, either afraid or already conquered." Sirawan looked out the window. The last of the defense satellites fell into the clouds. The Drekker ships were forming up again. A final strike was coming. "We shouldn't have trusted peace," Sirawan said bitterly. "We should have trusted war." Just then, a light blinked on the console. An old channel, unknown code, a message. The signal was short, just coordinates. Strange ones, not a known planet in their records. But it had come in response to their SOS. Another trap, the officer asked. Serun narrowed his eyes. Or someone ancient, someone forgotten, far across the stars in the Sol system. Aboard the Terran dreadnought, TSV, Black Horizon, Admiral Rhea Morales sat in silence. She watched the screen. Images were streaming in from Varnak space. Charred cities, burnt forests, dead orbit, AI systems had intercepted the Drekker's attack patterns. They were methodically racing culture, enslaving survivors, deleting history. "They're worse than the Zyrax," said Commander Hall, watching beside her. "No," Rhea said quietly. "The Zyrax only killed these ones. Rewrite the dead." The room fell silent. Behind her, the crew of the warship Terrans of every kind. Born on Earth, Mars, Europa stood, waiting. Humanity had hidden for years after the Great Betrayal. The galaxy had united against them once. Now Earth was quiet, but not weak, and someone had dared call for help. "We didn't answer before," Rhea said, voice sharp. "Not when they begged during the Orion Wars, not when they starved under the Killerith, but this one." She turned to the screen. "This one didn't ask us. They asked everyone. We were never meant to hear." She smiled. "That makes it real." In orbit over Varnak, a Drekker command ship hovered like a giant metal beast. Black plating, red lights, endless claws for tearing into ships and cities. General Zarok stood on the viewing deck, grinning. "The last capital is almost down," he growled to his second. "Their leaders are hiding in bunkers, but we'll drag them out. Resistance, scattered. Mostly civilians now. Their fleets are dead." He reached toward the display, zooming in on the wreckage, then paused. Something new appeared on the screen. A ripple, a distortion in space. "What is that?" The officer frowned. "It's not one of ours." A second ripple, then a third. Then the tier opened. From the fabric of space itself, a ship emerged. But it wasn't VARNAK. It wasn't DREKKAR. It was black, sleek, covered in reflective armor, long and lean like a predator. No visible weapons, no markings. Just a single burning symbol across its hull, TSV, the Terran Stellar. Vanguard humanity had arrived. Sirawan couldn't believe it. He watched from a deep mountain shelter, eyes wide. That ship, where did it come from? His aide checked readings. Not Drekker, not from the Accord. It's from the signal coordinates. They traced us, whoever they are. They're not hiding. On the Black Horizon, Rhea Morales gave a single command. Broadcast open channel, galactic standard. Let them all hear. A soft tone buzzed across the system. All species could receive it. Varnak survivors, Drekker invaders, hidden observers. Her voice was calm, but it carried the weight of a death world behind it. "This is Admiral Rhea Morales, commanding officer of the Terran Warfleet. You sent a signal, we received it. The galaxy may have forgotten us, but we remember the silence. We remember the betrayal. You asked for help. We answer with fire." The Drekker laughed. A single ship against their whole fleet. General Zarok gave the order. "Destroy it. Show them what we do to shadows." Drekker cruisers powered up weapons, missiles, plasma lances, particle beams. They fired all at once. The first blast never hit the Terran ship Shimmerdand, then split. One ship became 5. Each moved like it ignored physics. They danced through enemy fire like ghosts, and then they returned fire, not missiles, not beams, just silence. And then light. A Drekker cruiser broke in. Half no warning, no source of damage. Another exploded from the inside. A third simply vanished. "They're hacking us," screamed a Drekker officer. "They've taken the core. They're not hacking. Zorak growled. "They're killing." On the ground, Sirowin and the Varnock watched the sky burn, but not with despair. With awe, the Terran fleet was moving like no race they'd ever seen. They weren't fighting, they were hunting. Commander Hall stared at the tactical board. 12 enemy ships down, no Terran losses. We haven't even used the heavy weapons. Rhea nodded. "Hold those back. Let them feel fear first." Her eyes darkened. They made the galaxy scream. Time they heard it themselves. Hours passed. Varnock skies cleared. The Drekker tried to flee, but there was nowhere to run. The Terran warships had already closed the exits. No wormholes, no jump lanes, no escape. General Zarek sent one final message. "Who are you? You weren't in the records." "What do you want?" Rhea answered. "We are what the galaxy created. You erased mercy. We bring judgment." Then she cut the channel. On the last Drekker ship, fire danced along the hull. General Zarok stood in silence, not with anger, but with something unfamiliar. "Fear set self-destruct," he ordered. "Let them find nothing." His crew obeyed. But before the ship exploded, the Terrans blinked it away, hacked into the detonation core, and froze it. A boarding team arrived, Terran soldiers in black armor. No faces, no names, just one word on their chest. "Earth," Zarek snarled. "You should have stayed hidden." The Terran soldier lifted his weapon. "We did." Back on Varnock, the remaining survivors gathered in the burned capital. Sirowan stood in the plaza, surrounded by broken statues and hopeful faces. Then, from the shadows, the Terran envoy approached. A woman with gray armor, brown skin, and sharp eyes. "Captain Sirowan?" she asked. He nodded. "Why?" he asked. "Why'd you come?" "The galaxy turned its back on you." She looked at the burning sky, and still. "You called for help." Siruin lowered his head. "You answered when no one else would." She offered a hand. "You're not the first, you won't be the last. But from now on, you are not alone." He took it. In the distance, more Terran ships dropped from warp. The stars were no longer quiet. Earth had returned, and the galaxy would never forget it again. The stars outside the warship shimmered like cold, distant fireflies. Inside, the silence wasn't peaceful, it was tense. Everyone aboard the ICS Retribution knew what they were heading into. Lieutenant Aria Solis stood in front of the bridge's main screen. Arms crossed. The Drekker fleet was ahead. Thousands of ships, claws, blades, energy cores, glowing like demonic eyes. They weren't waiting. They were charging straight toward the Varnock homeworld. Estimated time until Drekker reach orbit. Captain Rourke asked calmly, though his voice carried the weight of thunder. 22 minutes, sir," replied a crewman. "They're not slowing down." "Then we won't either." The Terran, fleetingly a fraction of Earth's total strength, had arrived in time, but barely. Now, a choice stood before them. Strike first and reveal just how deadly Earth's fleet truly was, or wait and risk the extinction of another species. On the Varnock surface, the last defenders had taken shelter inside the ancient domes of Sothel Prime. Cities were no longer cities. Craters, smoke, rubble, and silence inside a half-broken temple turnbunk. Korotha, young Varnock soldier, who had once begged the stars for help, was now holding a shaking child in his arms. "The stars heard us," he whispered to the little one. "I swear it." Outside, the skies turned red again. But this time, it wasn't from the Drekker's fire. It was something else. Captain Rourke's eyes narrowed. "Deploy the Chimera squads. Prepare for boarding ops." "Vessels, Aria." "What's the status on Omega Protocol?" Aria hesitated. "Activating that protocol will confirm every story the galaxy ever feared about us. Earth will no longer be considered silent." "We were silent because they made us that way," Rourke said coldly, "but not anymore." He walked to the front of the bridge and gave one simple command: fire. The Retribution launched its first volley. No bright lights, no massive explosion, just a ripple in space, quiet, invisible, lethal. The leading Drekker destroyer simply vanished, not destroyed, gone erased from existence like it had never been there. On the Drekker command ship, Admiral Hrusk roared. "What weapon was that? What species has that kind of firepower?" No answer came. But then his own ship was struck. Systems flickered. Engines shut down. Hull cracked. And out of the darkness, black shapes emerged, sleek Terran stealth ships, boarding hooks ready, guns glowing red. Deathworlders had arrived. The Chimera squads tore through Drekker ships like whispers of death. Clad in black armor, reinforced with nanosteel and augmented muscles, they were faster, stronger, and smarter than anything the Drekker had fought. Kinetic rounds pierced Drekker armor. Pulse blades sliced through bone. Let's give them a history lesson. On every channel, the Drekker screamed, "What are they? What world spawns such monsters?" Back on the Retribution, Arya watched the feed. "Sir, boarding operations report 90% success." "Drekker, command is collapsing." Rourke didn't smile. "And the Varnak still alive, still hiding, but they've seen us now. They know who we are." Rourke nodded. "Make sure they see what we choose to be, not what the galaxy made us." On the surface, the Varnak bunker doors opened. Dozens of them stepped outside, looking up in fear. The Drekker ships above were falling crashing into the sea, burning through clouds, disintegrating before impact, and then a shape passed overhead. Massive, silent, painted in black and silver. A Terran warship. It hovered for a second, and then softly it dropped something. A crate inside. Medical supplies, food, water, tools, and a small banner with a strange symbol, a blue planet, surrounded by a silver ring. Below it, one word, humanity. Koro knelt before the crate, eyes wide. They came. An older Varnak placed a hand on his shoulder. And they were not what the stories said. They were worse and better. On the bridge of the Retribution, Arya whispered, "Sir, multiple signals now. Peaceful races. Asking if it's true, asking if Earth is back." Rourke didn't answer right away. He stared at the stars so many of them had once watched as Earth burned. Now they begged for its help. "Let them wonder," he said finally. "Let them remember, and let them decide if they want to stand with us, ... or against us." He turned. To his crew, next target. A brief silence, then, another Drekker siege world, coordinates locked. Then set course, Rourke ordered. "Let's remind the galaxy who they sent that signal to." "Space," whispers began. "They're back. Earth walks again. And this time, they are not alone." The ruins of the Varnak capital smoldered under the blood-red sky. Craters pockmarked the once beautiful white stone streets. Black smoke rose from collapsed towers. Only silence remained except for the low hum of Drekker patrol ships overhead. A sound broke through the silence. It was not the growl of Drekker engines. It was a deep rumble. From the clouds above, a flash of unnatural blue light burst open the sky. "Something's coming," whispered a Drekker scout. He barely had time to react before a massive human warship descended through the clouds. Not sleek or elegant, no. This vessel looked like a monster forged in fire and war, gunmetal black, scarred armor. The letters on the hull read, "TNS Retribution." Without warning, its cannons opened fire. The ground shook as plasma rounds exploded in Drekker positions. Turrets unfolded from the ship's underbelly and sprayed death across the sky. Drekker fighters scrambled to intercept, but were torn apart within seconds. A dozen human drop pods followed, slamming into the ground like meteorites. From each pod, Terran soldiers emerged, tall, armored, silent. Their faces were hidden behind helmets. Their movements were precise, brutal. They spoke no words. They just advanced, tearing through Drekker lines with brutal efficiency in a broken temple. Varnak survivors peeked from under rubble. A young child clutched her mother's arm. "Who are they?" the child asked. The mother watched one of the Terran soldiers walk past their hiding spot. His eyes met hers briefly through the visor. She didn't know what she saw in those eyes or purpose, but he kept walking. "Their death," she whispered, "but not for us." High above, Captain Reza Khan stood on the TNS Retribution's bridge. He watched the battlefield on the main screen. "Sector secured. Minimal resistance remaining," his officer reported. Reza's fingers tapped against the command panel, scanned for survivors. "Prioritize civilians," he said. "We're not here to glass the planet. Not yet." A pause. Then a voice from the communications deck spoke. "Sir, we've intercepted Drekker chatter. They're pulling back. Seems like we hit them harder than expected." Reza gave a cold nod. "Good. Let them run." He turned to his second-in-command. "Commander Vasquez, initiate Ashlight Protocol on all Drecker biotech nodes. "Yes, Captain," she replied, fingers dancing over her console. "Link established. Firing pulse in 3, 2. A wave of light, barely visible, burst from the retribution and blanketed the battlefield. Hidden Drecker technology fried instantly. Cores melted. Hidden mines failed. Communication systems collapsed. "Now," Reza said quietly, "they know we're back." The Drecker fleet regrouped at the edge of the Varnock system. On their flagship, Lord Vorak snarled as he listened to the reports. "One ship," he bellowed. "One Terran ship destroyed an entire planetary force." The Drecker general bowed. "Lo, they're not like the others, Lord. Their weapons are unlike anything we've seen, and they don't negotiate. They don't talk, they just strike." Lord Vorak's claws tightened on the edge of his command chair. "They came from," he growled, "and if it's Earth, burn it." Back on the surface, the Terran soldiers moved swiftly through the city ruins. They handed out emergency rations to the surviving Varnak. Medical drones buzzed in and out, treating wounds. Cleanup bots cleared rubble. A Varnak elder approached one of the human officers. You saved us," he said, voice trembling. The officer nodded once. "But why?" the elder asked. The Terran removed his helmet. His face was young, barely 30, but his eyes were old, worn, hardened, because once the human said no one answered our cries, we swore we'd never let that happen again. He turned away, heading back to his unit. The elder stood in silence. "Deathworlders," he whispered. "Angels of war." In orbit, the Retribution received a transmission from Terran High Command. Phase 1 complete. Proceed to next target system. Drecker homeworld must be shown the price of conquest. Reza nodded. "Understood." Vasquez turned to him. "You think the Varnak will survive this?" Reza looked out at the broken planet below. "They survived. Extinction today," he said. "Now they have a choice. Remember what happened and prepare, because the galaxy's fire hasn't even started yet." In a hidden Drecker base, deep in the dark systems, a group of scientists huddled around a screen. They watched the battle recordings from Varnock. They analyzed the way Terran soldiers moved, how they adapted, how they reacted with no delay, how their machines supported them flawlessly. One scientist swallowed hard. "They're more than just warriors," he said. "They've become a weaponized species." Another whispered, "They don't just fight to win, they fight to end wars." Before they begin, a silence fell over the room, and in that silence, a simple truth echoed in every mind. Humanity had returned, and it had brought fire. The Varnak fortress on Relcon 3 was surrounded. Drecker war machines moved across the shattered plains like metal beasts. Smoke curled into the sky. The sun was hidden behind black clouds of ash. Every breath was a struggle. Inside the last defense bunker, General Rethok watched the holographic display. Red dots. Drecker forces were closing in fast. "They will reach our gates in 1 hour," said Commander Sivera. Her voice trembled. Rethok clenched his jaw. "Then we hold the gates for 1 hour." "But how?" a soldier whispered. "There's nothing left." Suddenly, a loud boom shook the bunker. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. "They've started the final push," shouted someone. Rethok looked up. No, that wasn't Drecker fire. Another boom echoed, louder, stronger. Then a deep rumble shook the floor like thunder under their feet. The soldiers froze, then dashed static. The comms panel sparked to life. "Varnak defense grid, respond. This is Captain Sarah Holt of the Terran. Warship Leviathan. Reinforcements have arrived." Rethak's mouth dropped open. "Humans," Sivera blinked. "They came." Another voice joined the cum. It was deeper, colder. "This is Admiral Grant Keller. You sent a signal. You asked for help. Now stand back." Outside, the skies above Relcon 3 split open. The clouds burned away. Terran warships dropped from orbit like gods of vengeance. Silent, black, massive. The Drecker looked uphand, paused. The Leviathan's railguns opened fire. Blue beams sliced across the battlefield. Drecker mechs exploded. Their tanks were shredded. In seconds, shockwaves rippled through the battlefield. Fire rained from above. Each human weapon strike was precise, devastating, and without mercy. Rethok stumbled outside the bunker. His soldiers followed, staring in awe. Drekker forces turned to run. They couldn't. Orbital kinetic rods slammed down like thunderbolts. The ground shook. Entire enemy battalions vanished under the rain of steel. "By the stars," Sivra whispered. "They came with the fury of death." "They remembered us," Rithok said quietly, "and they still came." Just then, a dropship landed beside the bunker. The hatch opened with a hiss. A human soldier stepped out. Power armor gleamed. The Terran flag was painted across the chest. The soldier removed her helmet. "General Rithok," she asked. "Yes?" he said. She gave a quick nod. "I'm Captain Holt. We're here to push back the Drekker permanently." Rithok looked at the battlefield. Smoke, fire, silence. "You've already won," he said. Holt shook her head. "This is just the beginning." She tapped her coms. "Deploy squads 2 and 3. Push north. Secure the ridge." Terran troops poured from ships behind her. Machines followed. Walkers with glowing weapons. Drones scanning the skies. "Where are the Drekker command centers?" she asked. Sivra stepped forward. "They're dug into the canyon west of here. Heavy shields. You can't break them." "We don't break shields," Holt said with a small smile. "We erase them." She looked back at her dropship. "Bring in the Hydra." The air shimmered. Dot. Then the earth trembled. A massive black war machine rolled down from a carrier. It moved like a tank, but taller than any Drekker fortress. Cannons lined its back. A rotating core glowed blue at its heart. The Hydra charged Dot. In less than 10 minutes, the Drekker western base was gone, just a crater and silence. General Rithok stared at it all. He turned to Holt. "Why?" he asked softly. "Why did you come?" She looked at him. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Because once the galaxy turned its back on us, we remember how that felt. No one deserves that." "You owe us nothing," he said. "You're right." She said, "But we chose to come." The coms buzzed again. "Admiral Keller to all ground teams. Operation Scorch is live. Target Drekker, planetary network. End this war." "Yes, sir," Holt said. "Let's move." In orbit, the Terran fleet formed a ring around the planet. Missiles launched. Electronic warfare shut down Drekker communications. No more calls for reinforcements. No more escape. The Drekker leaders tried to flee. They didn't get far. One by one, their ships exploded in space. Terran interceptors were already waiting. Dot inside his command center. Admiral Keller stood over a massive display. He watched as each Drekker icon blinked out. "Cold work," said his second-in-command. Keller's face was unreadable. "Necessary work." Back on the ground, Captain Holt stood with Rithok on the hill. The battlefield was quiet. Bodies of Drekker warriors were scattered across the plains. Smoke rose in gentle wisps. The wind blew softly now, no longer filled with ash. Sivra walked. "Up beside them, General," she said. "Our people are coming out of the bunkers. Civilians, children." "They're safe now," Rithok said. Holt looked down at the Varnak families emerging from ruins. She saw the fear in their eyes turn to hope. "This is only one world," she said. "But the message will spread." Rithok nodded slowly. "The galaxy will remember this day." Holt looked toward the sky. "No," she said. "The galaxy will remember Earth." Later that night, around a small fire in the ruins of the city, Terran and Varnak soldiers sat side by side. Some shared rations. Others traded words in broken translation. A Varnak child approached a human soldier cautiously. The soldier kneeled, removed his helmet. The child reached out and touched the armor. "Are you really from Earth?" the child asked. The soldier smiled. "Yeah, the Deathworld are all humans like you." The soldier looked at the fire, then back at the child. "No," he said. "Some are even worse." The child laughed. "The war wasn't over. Not yet." Drekker forces remained across systems. But tonight, for the first time in many years, the Varnak felt something they had lost: hope and humanity, the species forgotten, ignored, and feared had returned to the stars, not for conquest, but for justice and vengeance. And maybe, just maybe, for something better. The silence in space was always deceiving. No thunder rolled, no flames cracked, but in the darkness above the Varnak homeworld, hell had returned. Drekker warships, massive and cruel in shape, formed a black ring around the planet. Their weapons glowed, ready to erase what little hope remained. Inside the last command center, High Commander Velrix stood frozen. His thin fingers trembled over the console. "They've surrounded us," he whispered. Beside him, Captain Sura clutched her rifle. "We can't stop them. We're out of time." Then the alarms changed. Not Drekker weapons. Something else. An officer gasped. "New contacts? Inbound from deep space." Velrix's voice broke. "More enemies?" "No," the officer said slowly. "Unknown. But fast. Very fast." Suddenly, the sky cracked. From the edge of the system, hundreds of dark metal ships dropped from faster-than-light speed, sleek, angular, covered in symbols. No Varnak recognized, but one race would. Earth, the human war fleet, had arrived. Their lead ship, HFS Judgment, moved like a predator. It dwarfed everything in its path. Drones and gunships launched from its bays like angry wasps. On its bridge, Admiral Rain stood in silence watching the planet below. She gave one order, fire, and the stars obeyed. Lasers streaked kinetic slugs, ripped through Drekker cruisers. Human AI-guided missiles twisted like vipers, finding weak spots the Drekker didn't even know they had. Within minutes, the outer Drekker fleet broke. Some tried to run, others returned. Firand vanished in the white-hot retaliatory blasts from Earth's battleships. Sura watched from the planet's surface. They're tearing the Drekker apart. Velrix fell to his knees. It wasn't a myth. Earth lived. On board the Judgment, Rain watched enemy ships scatter. Her second Dinjumand turned to her. "Should we make contact with the Varnak?" She paused. "Open a channel?" A shaky voice replied from the surface. "Tethys is Varnak Command." Who are you?" Rain didn't smile. "We're the humans. You called for help. You got us." Static silence. Then Sura's voice came through. "Why? Why would you help us?" Rain's tone was colder than space. "You didn't mean to call us, but we answered anyway." Velrix dared to ask, "Is this mercy?" "No," Rain said flatly. "This is war, and we don't forget." She closed the channel. Across the battlefield, Drekker ground forces began retreating. Human dropships fell like comets, delivering towering war mechs and soldiers in advanced combat suits. Hissed railguns thundered. Wherever Drekker soldiers fought, they now bled and ran. Sura led a squad through the ruins of their capital. "We can push them back," she yelled. Beside her marched a human warbot 12 feet tall, covered in carbon armor, twin miniguns on its arms. It never spoke. It just protected her. "Why are you here?" she asked, it between fireflies. "You're kind your species left us long ago." The machine paused. Then a voice answered through her, comes soft and human. "Because we remember what it's like to scream into the void and have no one answer." Hours later, the last Drekker ship exploded. A cheer rose from the surface. The Varnak survivors embraced, some in tears, others still stunned. Above Earth's ships hovered like gods watching from the clouds. Velrix, now bloodied but alive, was brought aboard the Judgment. He entered the command chamber where Admiral Rain stood beneath a hologram of the galaxy. He bowed low. "You saved us, thank you." Rain studied him. "Don't thank us yet." He looked up in confusion. "I don't understand. You sent a signal," she said. "And now everyone knows you were weak enough to need help." "The galaxy listens." Velrix's face paled. "You mean you'll be hunted again, and next time you might not be so lucky." "Then what should we do?" She turned toward the star map. "You rebuild, you fight, you stand beside us, because war is coming." Elrix's voice trembled. "Are we allies now?" "No," she said softly. "Not yet. But you're alive. That's a start." Back on Earth, news spread. The forgotten world had risen again. Humanity's war fleet, once thought gone, now burned across the stars. On barren moons, alien spies watched the footage and trembled. On wealthy trade planets, merchants whispered the name Terran like a curse. In secret Drekker chambers, warlords planned their revenge. But every message ended with the same phrase: "Do not wake the Deathworlders." Because the galaxy now remembered the truth, Earth answered calls for help, but what they brought was fire. The end.